10. Father and daughter killers. A father and daughter were arrested in August 2018 on charges of murder. The father and daughter duo were behind the shooting and death of a man from Zephyr Hills, Florida, his body discovered in Polk County. According to the Polk County Sheriff's Office, William Porter and his 18-year-old daughter, Selena, were responsible. It was the father who did the killing and the daughter who helped dump the body of David Ray Brady off the side of a rural road. The trouble began when William and the victim were hanging out at their local park and drinking some beer. William became upset when the victim made an extremely inappropriate comment about his young daughter. Already drunk and irrational, David then attacked William and threatened him with a gun. This is what William said anyway. William managed to take the gun away from David. Then he pulled the trigger and shot David square in the chest. He was dead immediately, and then William had a major issue. He was standing in the park with a dead body. That was when William called his daughter, asking for help. He told his daughter on the phone, "We gotta bury a body." William loaded the corpse into his truck. His daughter drove 40 minutes out of her way to help, and together they buried the body. And now they're both going to be doing some serious time in jail. 9. Florida road rage. A mother and daughter from Florida had an explosive, violent case of road rage back in 2017. Alicia Nicole Scarduzio, 20 years old, and her stepmother, Shelley Lynn Gemberling, attacked a female motorist in broad daylight on a Tuesday afternoon. It happened at a red light in Tampa. Alicia grabbed the woman by her hair, while Shelley helped pull the victim out through her own window. They dragged her into the middle of traffic and gave her a fierce beating. The victim has been identified as Emily Bailey, and she was left unconscious and seriously injured in the middle of the road. Luckily, the whole attack was filmed by a bystander who sat in their car with their camera out. So the police had all the evidence they needed. The attack only stopped when a motorist got out of his vehicle and chased the women away. Emily Bailey, who's a veterinary technician, later told the police she was almost run off the road by the mother and daughter duo. She honked at them because they were driving erratically, and so they followed her to a red light, got out, and then literally beat her senseless. The two women have since been charged with aggravated battery. 8. The cold case. 25 years after a pair of brutal murders, a mother and son have been charged in the killings. It all started in 1994. On December 8th, the sister of Dolores Morgan, Mejia, was discovered dead and scantily clothed in the bedroom of an apartment, which she shared with her boyfriend and two small children. According to the prosecutor's office, she had been stabbed roughly 20 times. She also had a mysterious powdery substance rubbed all over her face. At the same time her body was found, her kids were discovered hiding inside the residence. Fast forward 6 months to May 1995. Nicholas Connors was discovered dead on a sofa inside his home. Nicholas had been married to Dolores Morgan and was the adoptive father of Ted Connors, Dolores' son. He had been shot multiple times in the head. After both killings, the police were left unable to prosecute anyone for the crimes. They were pretty sure it was the mother and son who did it, but didn't have enough proof. This is despite the fact that Dolores Morgan collected a $200,000 life insurance policy on her husband after he was shot in the face. Almost 3 decades later, they were captured thanks to a man named Carrero, who spilled the beans to the authorities. In 2020, as part of a plea agreement, he told the cops that he had conspired with Morgan and her son to kill Mejia Morgan. It was retaliation for Mejia threatening to call the police regarding illegal activities that her boyfriend was involved in. The boyfriend didn't do the killing, but conspired with the mother and son to have it done. And after they killed once, it was simple for them to do it again. 7. Father and son vigilantes. On June 20th, 2021, Neil Charles was stabbed to death. He was killed by a couple of vigilantes who took the law into their own hands. David King and his 19-year-old son, Edward, witnessed Neil Charles trying to break into people's houses. They saw him in their neighborhood trying car doors, walking up and jiggling house handles, the telltale sign of an opportunistic thief. David called the police just shy of 4 o'clock a.m., saying that a man had just tried to steal his car. He also said that he attempted to stop the thief, that he had been holding a knife in his hand, and that he may have accidentally injured the thief before he fled. David was careful to say that if anything, the thief had run into his knife by accident. Both David and his son have denied any intentional wrongdoing. The Crown Court has painted a different version of their story. They say that David and Edward witnessed the thief prowling around the neighborhood, gathered themselves some weapons, and went to hunt him down. David had a knife and Edward had a small ninja sword. It was Edward who plunged his knife into the victim, while Edward slashed his leg with the sword. When the police went through text message records, they found that David and his son had been plotting to deal with neighborhood criminals in any way they could. They had been planning to be vigilantes all along, and both were found guilty of murder by a unanimous verdict. 6. Father and daughter killers. On August 2, 2015, Molly Corbett and her father, Thomas Martin, allegedly beat Molly's husband to death. His name was Jason, and he was bludgeoned to death with a paving brick and a baseball bat. When the father and daughter killers were brought to court, they argued for self-defense. They claimed that Jason was choking Molly and that the only way to prevent Molly from being strangled to death was to beat Jason with a brick. After 2 years of being caught up in the justice system, the pair finally had their day in court. Both father and daughter were charged with second-degree murder and given 20 to 25 years. This was even though statements had been given about how Jason Corbett had indeed been abusing Molly, as well as 2 children from Jason's previous marriage. However, these statements were never allowed in court because they were considered hearsay. After 3 years in jail, the North Carolina Court of Appeals overturned the convictions. But in 2021, the Supreme Court did a reversal and decided that the case should be tried again. So now, after 7 years, a second trial is currently ongoing to determine if these two are really murderers or not. 5. Murder in Phoenix. In Phoenix, a father and son ganged up on a thief who had been trying to steal a catalytic converter from underneath their car. It happened on May 24, 2022. Police officers responded to the scene of the crime in the early morning hours and discovered a Jeep that had crashed and a man inside who had been shot. The victim was identified as Patrick Pearson, and the Phoenix Fire Department pronounced him dead on the scene. Officers detained the 2 adult male suspects involved, Augustin Cherise Romero, 22, and his father, also named Augustin. Investigators say that when the 2 men discovered the thief messing around with their car, they confronted him. The thief quickly got into his own car to leave, but one suspect pulled a gun and shot at the car as it drove away. 1 bullet hit him in the head and another in the upper torso. Father and son claim they never tried to kill him, but simply wanted to blow out the tires of his Jeep. The father and son are being held on a $250,000 bond and are due back in court in June. 4. Bitcoin drug lords. Kenneth John Rule and his son, Kenneth Warren Rule, were recently sentenced to jail for running a scheme using Bitcoin. They were behind a money laundering operation and a marijuana business, and they were using Bitcoin to launder their cash. Law enforcement agencies, including the DEA and Homeland Security, began investigating the father and son team back in April 2018. An undercover agent was sent to infiltrate the operation. The agent met with a younger Rule at Starbucks coffee shops, posing as a man in need of a money launderer. The undercover cop claimed to be running a lucrative human trafficking business and needed a way to clean his cash. The young Rule agreed to exchange the undercover officer's money for Bitcoin and even provided evidence on cryptocurrency and how to use it to internationally hide money from the authorities. The exchange went down $142,000 in Bitcoin. And yet this was only a fraction of the money the Rules were hiding. They had about $13 million saved from cash generated through their marijuana business. They sold dope all over the country to anyone with cash or crypto. After the undercover bust, both father and son were arrested and sentenced to 5 years in prison. 3. Keeping mom safe. In 2016, a 19-year-old man in New Mexico was charged with having a physically romantic relationship with his very own mother. His name is Caleb Peterson. His mother is Monica Mares, 36 years old. According to what Caleb told the police after he and his mom were charged in February, He had done it to keep her safe. Caleb said his mom had been involved in a string of abusive relationships. It seemed every man she dated turned out to be violent, unpredictable, and dangerous. So the 19-year-old wanted to step in and be his own mom's romantic partner so that she didn't have to deal with abusive men any longer. He was also willing to step up and take care of the rest of the household, including his younger brothers. Caleb even did an interview with Albuquerque television station KLB, though declined to be on camera. He wanted everybody to know why he was in a relationship with his mom, broadcasting it across every radio in New Mexico. The police only learned about the relationship after they had responded to a dispute near where the family lived. Either a neighbor or an acquaintance, the police never said, told them about the nature of the relationship between the mother and son living down the road. This prompted the police to start an investigation, which proved the allegations to be true. Mother and son are now facing up to 3 years in prison and fines of up to $5,000. 2. The murder of Diane Tilley. Diane Tilley helped to establish the Robbins Academy, a special high school in San Antonio, Texas for high-risk students. It was at this school that she spent most of her time teaching kids. She was so loved by her students that they would often stay in contact with her even after they graduated. Diane's life ended on November 22, 2004. She had plans that day of going to visit her boyfriend and was eagerly looking forward to her second grandchild. Unknown to her, the boyfriend had even been planning on proposing that very Thanksgiving. But the boyfriend never got a chance. Ronnie Joe Neal and his daughter of only 15, Pearl Cruz, had already made up their minds about killing Diane. The plan started when Ronnie met Diane as he was handing out flyers for his lawn mowing service. She hired him to do some work in the garden. He gained her trust and Ronnie introduced Diane to his daughter. It was all a part of a scheme to kill and rob Diane, all because Ronnie hated her for being rich and pretty. On that fateful day, it was Pearl who knocked on Diane's door. She then held the woman at gunpoint, led her father in through a different door, and kept Diane under the gun while Ronnie stole everything of value. He then took her ATM card to the nearest machine, took out as much cash as he could, and returned. The father and daughter then kidnapped Diane, forced her outside the city to a rural field, and executed her. There was no way for the pair to get away. Ronnie was captured on video, taking money out of the ATM. Plus, Pearl called the authorities the next day and admitted everything out of guilt. At the trial, Ronnie was found guilty and sentenced to death. His daughter was given 30 years in prison, but was released in 2009. Ronnie was found dead in prison in June 2010 before the state had a chance to execute him. 1. The Ricochet. On May 29th, a mother in Texas tried to kill her neighbor's dog. It was about 2 p.m. and 24-year-old Angelia Mia Vargas was sick and tired of the dog across the street barking. So she stood out in front of her own house, aimed a weapon across the street, and pulled the trigger 3 times. She discharged her firearm across a public road and in a densely populated neighborhood. But Angelia missed the pooch. One bullet hit something and ricocheted back in her direction, and it penetrated her little boy's stomach. Her kid was only 5 years old at the time. He was rushed to the hospital and was later announced in stable condition, but it was incredibly close. Angelia was indicted on a charge of deadly conduct discharge of a firearm, while the neighbor was given a citation for his dog's behavior. If you were forced to go on a crime spree with one of your parents, would you rather it be your mom or dad? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.